but I'm not sure it's as fast as this Turbo Depth stack.
I mean, frankly, seeing Jeff Blyden just lean back in the cut wearing his Pac-Man sweatshirt, I am already a fan.
All right.
I am clearly rooting for him.
Bayou Go, that's a start from Blyden. We do see a Force of Will in Dylan's hand. So an advantage to Sneakin' shows that they do get to play, they have something reactive in the deck.
Jeffrey does have Thoughtseize, so that is one way that he can kind of force through his combo, so to speak. And Dylan does have permission in terms of form of, Spell Pierce and Force and Will. But the thing is that Jeffrey's deck, he could actually combo off without actually casting a spell. I mean, effectively, it's just the Thespian Stage and Dark Depth. So pretty interesting strategy there. But Dylan's going to lead off with the Ponder here, and he's got a lot of interesting spells on top. He's got a Force of Will, Spell Pierce, and a Ponder. So it looks like he's going to keep all three. And the question is, does he want to draw the Force of Will? It looks like that is exactly what he wants to draw.
All right, so he's going to go. So now he has Spell Pierce, Force of Will. He does play Lotus Petal for the turn, too, so that'll give him access to a Spell Pierce if he needs it. We'll go over to Blyden and see kind of what he has in store. There's a fair amount of disruption on the other side of the board, so he has to be careful. Yeah,
Dylan does have the combo. He's got Sneak Attack and Emrakul. So he does have, his, so to speak, combo. But Jeffrey, and it looks like he's going to go Bayou, Lotus Petal, and then pass the turn?
Wants to make sure it resolves. Now he's going to tap 2. The cool part about Turbo Depths is that it can do a lot of its stuff. Without fear of counterspell.
Can't Spell Pierce that.
Yeah, so Vampire Hexmage. The thing about Dylan is this may be his only chance to cast Force of Will. But the rest of the combo is a land.
Yeah, because again, he could crop rotate and just kill you that turn.
All right, Hexmage is gone. It was Force of Will. The pitch was Spell Pierce, so that's all the permission that Dylan had. That's actually the only blue card that Dylan had, so that was the only thing he could pitch to Force of Will.
Oh, wow, so there's another Force of Will, but like you said, he doesn't have a blue card right now, and he doesn't have any deck manipulation, so I think the other card on top of his deck was Ponder.
Yeah, green light for Jeffrey right here, if he can pull off a combo.
So let's see what he can do here.
Excited about this. All right, we have 4 cards left in his hand. He's going to go with...
Looks like that's a Ghost Quarter? Okay, yeah, so it is a Ghost Quarter. He does have one Ghost Quarter in his deck.
He has a bunch of all-in ways to push through that Merit Lage. Okay, Ghost Quarter into the north. And now, all right, into the north is a Rampant Growth that instead of finding a basic land, it finds a snow land. Fortunately, Dark Depths is a snow land.
Yeah, and we've actually seen this combo back when Dark Depths was a legacy deck, or I'm sorry, an extended deck, rather. You saw black-green versions of Dark Depths. So basically, the only use for this card has really ever been to find Dark Depths. Very, very rarely is it a poor man's Farseek. So here we go. We have Jeffrey. He's going to search out of Dark Depths. Again, if he has a crop rotation, he could find the Thespian Stage at the end of Dylan's turn and make that Merit Lage token. However, Dylan could just jam out a Sneak Attack next turn. He's going to draw a Ponder.
If he finds another Lotus Petal...
He'd have to draw Lotus Petal. We know the top card of his library is Ponder because he pondered turn 1. I believe it's Ponder. So I think his plan is to just draw the Ponder, sack the Lotus Petal, and get a Sneak Attack into play. He can't activate it, but he does have Force of Will with Ponder to pitch to it. So I think he's in good shape as long as he does that.
As long as he gets that blue card. Remember, Emrakul, in the Clash of the Titans, Emrakul can beat up Merit Lage. Well, he can annihilate Merit Lage, but Merit Lage actually can beat up Emrakul if a fight somehow happens.
Yeah, the question is whether or not Jeffrey's going to have enough permanence to sack to the Annihilator trigger to keep the 20/20.
I kind of like that idea. It's this whole Godzilla versus Mothra thing of Emrakul swings into Merit Lage and just these gigantic flying monsters. Yes. Probably the fight will never happen, but if it did, it would be I really like that.
Well, there is a Magic the Gathering movie happening, so submit all your ideas to Michael Bay.
All right, so we see a double crack of fetch lands there. It looks like Dylan I believe he did not want to draw the Ponder.
No, he did.
This is after the draw.
So we're just going to see a Sneak Attack come into play, and he's going to probably pass back with Ponder to pitch to Force of Will, and he still has that Emrakul in his hand. So it's pretty good shape for Dylan. I mean, not too many cards he has to worry about here.
Taps. You actually have to do more than just tap the Lotus Petal. But,
yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
Hold on.
What do you think you're doing there, buddy? You better sacrifice that Lotus Petal.
You have to tap and sacrifice
You have to tap and sack, yeah.
So he has Force of Will plus blue card and Emrakul. He's got to be feeling pretty good right now.
I find the people that tap, there's a lot of people do that with sack lands too. They tap the sack land and then they sacrifice it. I find they're very polite in general.
It's like, no.
It's very polite of you.
I just throw the thing. I don't even put it into play. I just throw it, put it straight into the graveyard, and pick up my deck.
Yeah. So interesting thing here, Jeff does have 4 copies of Tithing Needles in his deck. So if he can needle Sneak Attack, that'd be pretty. Oh, he's Caracas. I was gonna say he has 1 copy of Caracas. Caracas. The problem with Caracas though is Dylan does have double red, so he can activate Sneak Attack, put an Emrakul into play. If he's allowed to attack, the Annihilate trigger will happen. So if he just bounces Emrakul in response to the attack,
double red does
he could
get
just bring
around
it back
the
into play and then attack again. So
this actually does not stop Emrakul from annihilating Jeffrey's board.
It does. Yeah, it's not really going to stop the Emrakul play.
Oh man, he did have the second red source. Okay, so this is looks like it should be a path to victory for Dylan Jones. You know, when you're playing against a deck like Jeffrey Blyden's deck, it's really a stressful play for someone like Dylan, because you know his deck's up to something really unfair, but the scary thing is when it's not a known quantity in Legacy, you don't know what it is he's doing, but whatever it is, if this guy's 5-0, you know it's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So you're not really sure what you're playing around, and what you do know is it's like he's gonna kill you out of from somewhere. You know?
The good news is though, your deck is so linear that you don't have to care that much about it.
You can just hit him with a Emrakul.
My 15/15 flying Annihilator creature does not care about your cutesy deck. That's generally what the strategy is.
I still really want to see a board where Jeffrey blocks Emrakul with Merit Lage and just kills it.
I want to see something awesome happen.
Yeah. How many times have you seen Emrakul not trade in combat? I've seen him like trade with a Stinkweed Imp. How many times have you seen him just die to another creature?
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah, I mean, in Legacy you see it a lot, just because people play Stinkweed Imp. There's also Baleful Strix. You know.
But those are things that trade with it. How many times do you see something just beat up Emrakul?
There's nothing that beats up Emrakul.
Nothing but Merit Lage.
So Jeffrey is going to activate Caracas, the first activation, and then Dylan's just going to play it again. And unfortunately, it looks like Jeffrey did have the crop rotation, and just he doesn't have enough time here.
So we'll see if he has any other utility lands.
He doesn't have a second Caracas, unfortunately, so he can't actually crop rotate his first one away to buy himself another turn.
Yeah, he can find Thespian Stage. The thing is that the Annihilator trigger of 6 was actually too big of a number. It will get the Merit Lage.
Yep. Jeffrey is at 20, so he'll only fall to 5. Fortunately, like you said, he's going to lose 6 permanents here.
And he only has 6 of them, so that will do it.
Yeah, Dylan, even though he doesn't have another fatty in his hand, I believe he did have an intuition.
The question
so he's going to be able to find them.
At what point did Jeffrey have the crop rotation? Was there a window which he could have used to make Merit Lage in there? I know there was. Dylan had the Force of Will the whole time.
Yeah, either way, I think Dylan had the Force of Will pretty much the whole time, so I don't think it would have mattered.
There's that window where Dylan hadn't drawn the Ponder yet, and I don't know if Jeffrey had the crop rotation then. If he did, he would have had a window. But otherwise, yeah, it really helps to be able to play Force of Will in your combo decks. That's one thing that Jeffrey doesn't get to do.
So Emrakul is going to die at the end of the turn. It's going to trigger, shuffle back into the library. And Dylan now has a chance. If he draws another land, he could just cast Intuition and find 3 Emrakuls and then sneak attack into play and then just win the game right there.
Yeah, Jeffrey's at 5. Remember, sometimes it does take a while for Sneak and Show to win from this spot. He does have cantrips, so it seems unlikely that Jeffrey will be able to assemble a Merit Lage before that happens. But maybe he's going to go ahead and cast Shiso, Death's Storehouse, and making Expedition Map. So Shiso is one of the legendary land cycle from Kamigawa. It's one of the few ways that Jeffrey has to kind of sneak that Merit Lage through. It gives Merit Lage Fear for a black mana. It works on legendary permanents.
Oh, no need to find it.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, he just drew it. Okay. But yeah, she's one of those cards that interacts with legendary cards, as was kind of the theme in Kamigawa. But and one way to punch it through, he also plays a one of Sajiri's Step in case he needs to get that through. It'll give him the Merit Lage protection from a color, and he can crop rotate into it as a combat trick.
So after board, Jeff has really the only card that he really wants to board in this matchup is 3 copies of Ashen Rider.
That's a lot of it, though. That's a lot of Ashen Rider.
It's not going to help you against sneak attack, but it can help you against show and tell. So I think that's probably really the only card he can come in. And again, I think I kind of like that simply because you have 4 copies of Pithing Needle. So after board, I actually think his situation is actually pretty good. 4 copies of Pithing Needle to name on Sneak Attack, and then you have 3 Ashen Rider as Show and Tell protection to go along with the 4 Thoughtseize that you have. So, after board, he's actually not that bad against the Sneak and Show.
Yeah, so on the Sneak and Show side, once again, as you said, mostly a dead sideboard there too. There are 2 copies of Blood Moon, which figure to be excellent against Turbo Depths. The rest of the cards probably stay in the sideboard, things that don't really do much.
Yeah, and you mentioned Blood Moon. I wonder if that means that Jeff has to bring in Abrupt Decays as well. I mean, clearly Show and Tell, Sneak and Show is one of those decks that you kind of have to be aware of. So he probably knows that there are a lot of Sneak and Show players that play Blood Moon after sideboard. So do I just have to bring in Blood Moon, Abrupt Decay rather, as a way to deal with it? He does have, several basics. He has a Snow Covered Forest and a Snow Covered Swamp. But again, most of his cards, lands are non-basics, and the core of his deck is a non-basic.
It's a combo between a Thespian Station, Dark Depths, which are both 4-ofs, as is pretty common in these Into the North style decks. He's also playing Urborgs. That gives Dark Depths the ability to tap for black mana, and he has Bayous as well. But other than that, he has a bunch of the utility lands we talked about before. And I think just 2 basics.
The good thing is he has 4 Not of This Worlds in his main deck, which you don't really need in this matchup. He's not afraid of Swords to Plowshare. There's really not anything that Sneak and Show has that you have to be too afraid of to protect your Marit Lage tokens. So I think Not of This World is a card that could easily come out of his main deck.
Yeah, so that's a card we saw Todd Anderson play at the most recent SCG Open in Baltimore. Not of This World, yeah, it's great at protecting Marit Lage, but yeah, once he makes the 2020, it's pretty much clear sailing from there. Dylan has no way to get it off the board other than annihilating it with Emrakul.
Yeah, so I think I could see those 4 coming out for sure. That'll give him room to bring in 3 Ashen Riders and at least 1 Abrupt Decay. And then the question is, does he have a way to bring in the other 2 Abrupt Decays? Maybe the Rite of Consumption in his main deck that he has. That's a card that allows you to win right away. Sometimes you need to do that because you can't just make a 2020 and then get annihilated right away. But again, Abrupt Decay might just be more important. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not Jeff boards out that Rite of Consumption as well. But definitely could see Not of This World coming
I want to talk a little bit about strategy on Jeffrey's side. He's running 4 Pithing Needles in the main deck. And so say you have a needle in Jeffrey's hand. You probably need to throw it down before you see the card that you're trying to needle. Most of, the 2 cards to needle in Sneak and Show are Gristlebrand and Sneak Attack. And both of those, once they're in play, could already be dealing their damage right away. So the question is, if you're playing Pithing Needle, do you blindly name one of the 2?
Well, in general, you should probably name Sneak Attack. It really depends on your hand, though. I don't even know if you necessarily just run it out there all the time. Sometimes it's good to put into play off of Show and Tell, because sometimes Dylan already saw Caracas, so he might not necessarily always cast Show and Tell just to put a fatty into play. He might just cast it to put a Sneak Attack into play. So that's a situation where if he puts a Sneak Attack in play and you put a needle into play, that's perfect.
Because then the needle's always on the right thing.
Exactly. And the other thing is, if you just cast needle, you give him the out to just counter it with Force of Will.
Now that does run the risk, though, that he'll just Lotus Petal up a Sneak Attack, and then you miss your window.
Exactly. So I think it kind of depends on your hand. If you have an Ashen Rider in your hand, that's basically your Show and Tell protection. So I think it's fine running needle out there. If you have a way to if you have like a Vampire Hex Mage in your hand and a Dark Depths in play, that's kind of Show and Tell protection as well, because he can't actually just get an Emrakul into play with a Show and Tell and still not just die to your Marit Lage token. So then I would probably run needle.
Emrakul would have to jump block.
Yeah. And the last game, some people at home are wondering whether or not there was a basic mountain in Dylan's deck to find with the Ghost Quarter, and in fact he did have 1 basic mountain to find.
Yeah, so if not, Jeffrey could have actually used Ghost Quarter just to take Dylan off red mana.
Yeah, so that way he could only activate the Sneak Attack once, and Caracas would have been basically a fog.
We are underway. Jeffrey Blyden, turn 1, plays a Dark Depths, Lotus Petal, cracks it, and is going to throw down a Pithing Needle as soon as possible.
And And he does name Sneak Attack.
Right, so it's one of those two targets. You see another Needle in his hand. He could get one on Sneak Attack and one on Gristlebrand. If he does, that could actually make things pretty hard for Dylan to... well, Dylan will lose his ability to combo and win on the same turn once both Needles are down.
Well, he boards in the...
through the breach.
So that is still a way for him to kind of get an Emrakul into play and then annihilate the whole board.
As we see, there is one in his hand.
And it looks like there's a Blood Moon as well, so he could just go turn 2 Blood Moon here.
Well, that will give Jeffrey some mana.
And this is perfect for Dylan because Gitaxian Probe will give him perfect information and let him know whether or not he has to do it.
All right, so we see Lotus Petal, Ashen Rider, Abrupt Decay, Pithing Needle. No lands for Blyden.
Yeah, and this is so annoying when you're playing against Sneak and Show and you board in Ashen Riders and they Gitaxian Probe you.
Yeah, the Ashen Rider's not doing anything.
It's basically like, okay, well, now they know they just can't cast a Show and Tell, which is still kind of good. It's basically... It's still just insurance, but you want to get them, you know? You always want to get them, but now Dylan knows what's up. Dylan knows what Jeffrey's plan is. So still pretty good shape, though, because, again, he can't activate Sneak Attack, and he can't actually cast Show and Tell right now. But he does have that Blood Moon and the Through the Breach, so he's still pretty well positioned.
All right, so he draws Ancient Tombs. Looks like the plan from Dylan is going to be... Well, originally it could have been to Show and Tell. Now he's going to go ahead and power out probably first a Blood Moon, followed by a Through the Breach.
Yeah, and if Jeffrey draws a land, either a green or black source, he can play that and the Lotus Petal and keep Abrupt Decay mana up.
Yeah.
So he can float the mana in response to the Blood Moon, let it resolve, and then Abrupt Decay the Blood Moon. But it all depends. If he doesn't draw a land this turn, though, we could easily see a turn 2 Blood Moon.
That would be pretty devastating for Jeffrey Blyden. Thanks to the Lotus Petal, he actually, even if he gets turn 2 Blood Moon, could start to find some basics. He could eventually cast an Expedition Map or a Sylvan Scrying off red mana, find his basics, and continue playing. But he doesn't have any in his hand right now, so the Blood Moon would be pretty damaging.
Yeah, he also has Elvish Spirit Guide as well.
So he still will have ways to play from under a Blood Moon, but it certainly will be difficult for him.
So it looks like we're seeing if Lotus Petal is going to resolve here.
He's going to try for Lotus Petal, and he's just trying to get both Needles into play. So second Pithing Needle.
So that can name lands. So Flight of Strand will get sacked in response. Likely going to find... Oh, so he's going to find a basic island. So we're not going to see a turn 2 Blood Moon. So that's good news for Jeffrey. Unless he trusts the Lotus Petal, that is.
Well, I think one of the worries with the turn 2 Blood Moon is if he plays a turn 2 Blood Moon, I'm not sure that Dylan has a blue source.
Yeah, he doesn't have any blue sources. So
he would actually Blood Moon himself off blue if he made that play. So it'll be a turn 3 Blood Moon.
So Needle is not that naming Grizzlebrand. So he has Needle and Grizzlebrand and Needle and Sneak Attack.
Those are the 2 cards to Needle in this matchup.
And he still has that Ashen Rider and Abrupt Decay in his hand, so...
Yeah, the problem is his hand really is not exerting any pressure. Now that you see a Force of Will drawn on Dylan's side, it just seems like it'll be difficult for Jeffrey to assemble this combo. That said, Abrupt Decay is uncounterable. If he can just naturally draw the Thespian Stage Dark Depths, he can still combo that way.
So it looks like we're going to get a Brainstorm, I believe, at the end of Jeffrey's turn.
Draw another Show and Tell, a Spell Pierce, and an Emrakul. So now with the Emrakul and the Through the Breach, we see another Soul Land in Dylan's hand and a red source. It is 2 turns away from Emrakul.
Yeah, so he doesn't actually have to cast. He doesn't have to cast Blood Moon, really. He could just play his Volcanic Island past and then just cast the Through the Breach next turn. Yeah, now that he found the Emrakul, I definitely think he's probably going to go for that plan instead.
Yeah. It almost seems like Jeffrey's overloaded on hate cards. But then again, when you think about it, Jeffrey's deck really, it doesn't play too many mana sources because it doesn't really need them. It's the advantage of playing the Merit Lage combo is that it's not very counterable.
Yeah, I think his hand was actually pretty good. He had hate for the Sneak Attack. He had hate for the Show and Tell. He just didn't have a way to stop the Through the Breach. And that's why Sneak and Show is just such a versatile deck, is that you can't stop every angle that attacks you with.
Well, his deck had no permanent mana sources in it and was missing 1 combo piece. But if he draws a second combo piece, he's really in business. But without that, the hand can turn sour pretty quickly. I think that's what we've seen.
So, yep, Dylan here. Looks like he's gonna play the City of Traders. Interesting that he didn't want to. Maybe he's afraid of Wasteland. Doesn't want to get his only red source wastelanded.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, he's got to feel pretty confident sitting behind that Force of Will on what he can do next turn. And he may contemplate Force of Willing this Lotus Petal, but he does not. He'll just let it resolve, take his next turn, and I think we're going to see 2 floating off City of Traders. Volcanic Island will make a little sacrifice to City. He's going to go for Emrakul here.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, down to 15.
You got to be afraid of, what, crop rotation? He's got Spell Pierce back up for it.
Yeah, Spell Pierce and Force of Will. Just going to run through the breach, and that will be Emrakul. That'll be 15 damage. Let's see, Sack of Lotus Petal. It's going to be a crop rotation.
And he has to, part of it's he has to sack it. He's going to lose it no matter what, so it doesn't really matter. But
yeah, you should certainly try for it. Unfortunately, yeah, this will be countered. So he was going to go for Caracas there, but he's not going to get a chance to. And that will annihilate his board.
And Dylan still has that Blood Moon. He's got Blood Moon, Show and Tell. Show and Tell is basically ineffective right now. He does have a Force of Will. So Jeffrey's at 5. He lost all his permanents, but it looks like he does have another Dark Depths in his hand. So he's still not out of it. Like you said, Dark Depths Thespian stage is really all he needs.
He drew a Knot of this World, so those have stayed in. I don't believe that's a live card in this matchup.
No. Not really relevant. Good thing we got those counters for that Dark Depths.
Yeah.
So Dylan Jones here was able to annihilate Jeffrey's board and drop him to 5, but he doesn't really have anything else right now. He has that Blood Moon, which is going to stop the Dark Depths, and there's an Emrakul.
But now he can't Show and Tell into play. He knows that there's an Ashen Rider waiting for him.
Yeah, so Blood Moon's going to come down. This is another thing that Jeffrey has to contend with. We know he has Abrupt Decay in his hand, but he doesn't have a lot of basics left. He does have Elvish Spirit Guide. I think he's got 2 more Lotus Petals in his deck. And there's one of the basics, so step 1.
Yeah, and actually, that has given Jeffrey an extra mana source right now. So his Dark Depths can now tap for red.
So Dylan draws just another land. So he's got Force of Will, but Force of Will can't stop Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, Jeffrey actually has... the only cards he needs to cast here are Abrupt Decay and make a Thespian stage. So Dylan can't actually interact with any of those. So if Jeffrey can just top deck into the combo, or even use an Expedition map to help find it, that'll work.
He needs to kill the Blood Moon, though.
Yeah, well, he has Abrupt Decay, so he's going to have to get a green source and the combo. But if he can do it, there's Thespian stage, so the combo is on the table.
So Elvish Mystic or no?
Elvish Spirit Guide, Expedition map,
Elvish Spirit Guide,
the 4th Lotus Petal.
Yeah, there's a lot of outs for Jeffrey here.
I think that's it. I think we covered them all.
He's got 2 Lotus Petals, 1 Basic Forest.
He has 1 petal left.
1 petal left.
1 petal left, 1 Basic Forest, 4 Expedition maps. 3 Expedition maps. So he has 5 draws to get him that green source.
Oh, baby. Let's see it.
This would be...
Let's see that sweet, sweet Marit Lage.
It's going to be one of those games. It could be one of those games where Emrakul gets to annihilate a board, and then the Seek and Show player does not win.
Oh, sweet baby. Let's see. End of turn, discard Elvish Spirit Guide, tap my Swamp, Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, the thing about Expedition map is if Dylan Jones is heads up here, he would Force of Will an Expedition map.
Oh, yeah. He's got it. He knows about the Abrupt Decay.
Oh, he knows about the Abrupt Decay?
He
probed it.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So then the maps, it's really just these 4 Elvish Spirit Guides. So actually, no, it's somewhere between a 9-outer and a 5-outer.
And there's a crop rotation, so
it
was a green card. It was not an Elvish. So there's another land for Dylan. Dylan still doesn't have anything going here.
No, we're just players trading draws. One of them's going to drop.
Was that it? Was that the Elvish Spirit Guide, please? Uh-oh, here we go. I think we might see Show and Tell because he drew Ashen Rider.
If it's Elvish Spirit Guide, there's one weakness here. The Dark Depths taps for mana right now, but if he Abrupt Decays the Blood Moon, he's 1 mana short of activating the combo. Because Dark Depths will stop tapping for mana. So he will need another land to execute this. But it won't matter what land it is, as long as it's not another Dark Depths.
Yep. So Dylan drew an Ashen Rider for the turn, and I think he's debating casting Show and Tell to get his Ashen Rider into play. Not sure that's something he wants to do, though, because effectively, what are you really going to do there? You're gonna put Jeffrey maybe because he has 2 Show and Tells.
Sure.
So yeah, your Ashen Rider comes into play. Jeffrey's Ashen Rider comes into play. You probably blow up a Blood Moon, you know.
There's the land. There's land number 4, so that's a Sajiri step for Blyden. So if he has the Elvish Spirit Guide, he can go for it here. But a second Blood Moon hits for Dylan.
Yeah, so this means that definitely, I'm pretty sure Dylan's going to go for the show and tell next turn.
Second Blood Moon cuts off almost all the outs that Jeffrey could have. Man, if he had found the Elvish Spirit, he had this window.
He drew sneak attack.
Oh, okay. So, well, now things have gotten tougher. Sneak attack drawn for Dylan. And it looked
good old Emrakul.
And that taps for a red, thanks to Blood Moon. He has the activation there off the Ancient Tomb. And that should be... He'll go ahead and he'll with some flair, it'll be Ashen Rioter. And Dylan Jones, 2-0, will take down Jeffrey Blyden. Dylan moves to 6-0. It is 1 win from the top 8. Jeffrey at 5-1, but still in contention right now with a pretty innovative combo deck, I would say.
Yeah, I like his deck a lot. You know, wasn't really able to get anything going in either game there. And Dylan, in game 1, Dylan just had way too many counter spells to stop Jeffrey's action. And then in game 2, Jeffrey just kept the...